Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love with the people that you love doing them with. Please do me a favor, smash the like button for me on the video. Only if you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button on the channel. It's free to do. Join the 19,000 or so Tottenham fans or fans of football that have gone before. Welcome back to them. Welcome to the new. Hit the bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. Now, guys, I was going to do a video a week ago, and I didn't do it. I put it off because it's something that's not really necessary until the January window gets closer, about the top 3 or 4 or 5 players that Tottenham might be looking for as winger options to replace the potential outgoings of Bryan Hill, of Ivan Perisic, and obviously with the injuries to Brennan Johnson, of which it's a hamstring injury. We're not really sure how he's going to recover. We've seen in the past the blight of players that rely on their speed, that they get hamstring injuries young. It never seems to be a problem that goes away. Michael Owen's the best example, if you can remember back to the early 90s when he first hit the scene. Obviously, more recently with Tottenham, you look at Dejan Kulusevski, who's never really got back into his final gear of speed, whatever that is. It's not high anyway, but he seems to always be a little bit reserved because of the last season's issues. Look at players like Reece James and Ryan Sessegnon, fullbacks that rely on their ability to spread their legs. And when they get hamstring injuries young, it's an ever-present problem. And so Tottenham, according to all reports, are looking for potentially a new winger. Despite us having a plentiful amount of options on paper, there is, in reality, an issue that's brewing there with mainly our left wing. Even though some people are very frustrated with Dejan Kulusevski, people are looking more and thinking we're one left winger and potentially a striker away from having a fantastic first 11 that can compete. I was going to do that video, but I put it off. I also was going to do a video a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, last time the European football was being played, when the story emerged that after the Bodo Glimt match against Brugge, Fabio Paratici was spotted at Bodo Airport talking in a private room or walking into a private meeting with representatives from Club Brugge after the game. And the rumours were that Tottenham might be looking at highly rated 18-year-old Brugge and Norway international Antonio NUSA. He was going to be one of the 3 or 5 players that I was going to talk about. I still might do the video, but for the purposes of today's video, that story has gathered speed. It was initially just spoken about in a few aggregators, and no one really picked it up in the mainstream. But yesterday, it came back, and it was given more legs. I think Via Sports UK were the first person to talk about it, and it's subsequently being mentioned in some of the kind of higher echelons of the tiered journalists regarding football transfers. And so I thought I'd speak about it because Antonio NUSA is an enigma that's coming onto the scene at the moment. He's 18 years old. He has started the season brilliantly well for Club Brugge. I think he has played 6 games in the Jupiler Pro League and 6 games in the UEFA Conference League qualifiers. I think he's got 5 goal contributions, 2 goals and 3 assists. I also believe he's played for Norway, and I think he's got 3 assists so far in his career, 2 assists maybe in his career so far for Norway in the recent internationals. He's really emerged on the scene as a lightning quick, really electrifying winger that can do exactly what Tottenham are looking for in a winger that we probably don't currently have, with Manuel Solomon's injury as well, keeping him out for 4 months. And as I say, with Ivan Perisic probably having played his last game for Tottenham, there's a lot of rumours suggesting that Ivan Perisic has already agreed to move back to Hajduk Split in January, even though he's not going to be recovered from his injury that was going to keep him out until April. And so Tottenham are looking to go again with someone who has all of the kind of the natural creative sides to be able to take players on. Now, Antonio NUSA is right-footed, but he can play with his left, and he has that kind of cadence that I've spoken about before with Ivan Perisic, where it's difficult to predict which is the final step over before he drops his shoulder and goes. He can get to the byline. He's very comfortable with his left foot, and he can also put the ball where it needs to be. And we've seen him create some really wonderful heading opportunities for players like Erling Haaland for Norway and also for Bruges. So his stats are very, very impressive. I'm going to put them up on the screen. He's up there in the sort of 90th to 99th percentile for the sorts of things that you're looking for from a forward in terms of shot creating actions, successful take-ons, touches in the penalty area, progressive carries, all of those sorts of, highly offensive stats. He's also someone though that can get back. He doesn't shy away from the defensive responsibilities that forwards do. He's very good with his possession stats. Touches in the midfield third and the final third are up there in the 90th percentile across the top 5 leagues. Carries into the penalty area. I don't think there's anybody in Europe that does it better than him at the moment. Progressive passes received. He's up there in the 99th percentile. Everyone is looking to get the ball to him or to his opposite number, which we're going to talk about in a second, in Bruges. Now, obviously, you have to take all these stats with a slight pinch of salt because he's doing it in the Belgium league. They're artificially inflated by the level of competition that he's playing against. But at 18 years old, you know, and you see a player there that has a massively high ceiling. And a lot of Tottenham fans, a lot of fans across Europe are desperate for this guy to be a player in their squad because they've got someone in there who is hitting these high levels at 18 years old and can only improve as long as he stays free of injury. And it remains to be seen whether he has the nous to be able to take it to the next level. But a lot of people that are very smart and much more informed than I am suggest he can, and that Tottenham, and the reason for Paratici's meeting with the Club Brugge representatives was ideally about this guy. Now, well, there's two things really. First and foremost, whilst his stats are phenomenal, he's not playing every single minute. He doesn't start every single game for Club Brugge, and he's being sort of broken in gently, but still creating, a lot of impact and obviously contributing in the things that really matter in goals and assists. And look, I would be absolutely over the moon if Tottenham went and signed this guy. Transfer market values him at 4 million euros. I guarantee you that is very much out of date. I think that it would probably require something in the region of 20, 25, maybe even more, 30 million pounds to get hold of this guy. Plus, you'd probably be looking at Bruges asking for a slice of a potential sell-on fee in the future because they have a player here that's really, really talented. And why would they let him go for pennies in the pound? But to me, guys, I've got to be honest. There's another player at Club Brugge. In fact, there's two other players at Club Brugge that I'm very happy if Tottenham's meeting, with Paratici's meeting with the representatives from Club Brugge was primarily focused on as well. I'll get through the first one, which I think is the lesser of the two. I don't really think it makes a lot of sense anyway. And that is TAJON Buchanan, Canadian right back, sort of right wing back, but he can play as a right back and can play as a right wing forward. Very much a more of an aggressive offensive player, blessed with blistering pace. If you remember him from the World Cup, I think he was the one who stood out for Canada as a really intriguing and interesting player, much more so than his counterpart from Lille, Jonathan David, who's a player that Tottenham are linked with as well, who I personally don't have that much affection for. But TAJON Buchanan is a really good player, a workhorse. He's really passionate, gets stuck in, has bags of energy, and knows how to press. For me, I like the guy. He hasn't really necessarily kicked on to amazing levels this season since the World Cup. However, very talented player, and at 24 years old, still has bags of time left in his career, and I think he will go on to do some interesting things. I would say that it's an unlikely story for Tottenham, just like yesterday with the guy Bowie from Galatasaray, when we were talking about the triple link of Galatasaray players, and Bowie was one of them, who's a right back. I don't think that Tottenham necessarily are really looking for a right back right now. I think it's just convenient stories. But for me, I think that Emerson Royale is a fine deputy to Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro, who we all had issues or concerns about going into the season, has blown, I think, everybody away with his ability to step up, to adapt, and to play into that inverted fullback role where he can get on the ball and demonstrate his wonderful passing abilities, as well as his ability to cross the ball onto a sixpence, which is so necessary at times. And on top of that, his willingness to have a crack, and he's got a good shot on him as well. So I'm more than comfortable at the moment with our right back options, and I don't believe that TAJON Buchanan is the guy. But this particular next name is a name that if you've been watching this channel for a while, then you will no doubt remember. I've been waxing lyrical about this kid for about 18 months, and it is, of course, Andreas SKOV OLSEN. Now, if you want to see a set of statistics that are more impressive than Antonio NUSA, then I'll be putting them up on the screen. This guy is similarly in the top 10 percentile for everything and more than what Antonio NUSA was. So Andreas SKOV OLSEN is up there in terms of goals and assists across the top 5 leagues. I think for the Belgian Pro League this season, he's played in 10 matches. He scored 7 goals and got 2 assists. I think he's also scored goals and assists in the Europa Conference League and, in fact, for Denmark as well, and in the Conference League qualification stage. This guy is a wonderful player, predominantly plays on the right-hand side, but as I said before, has 2 feet. He is someone, I was talking about the cadence of step overs for NUSA. This guy, I believe, simplifies dribbling to a different level. He doesn't necessarily do 40 or 50 step overs a game, and he's more of an intelligent player that's looking at the feet of the opposition. And as far as I can understand and reading reports about the guy, he's more intelligent to the point where he looks for when the defender is off balance or has his weight on the wrong foot, and then chooses to go in the direction that best suits that particular setup. And that is why he is one of the best at take-on successful dribbles, take-ons into the penalty area. Crossing is phenomenal. Obviously, he's got a wonderful ability to shoot. He drifts inside as well when necessary to allow for the overlap from the right back, which is often Buchanan, and gets himself into the box. And that's how he's getting those 7 goals in 10 games in the Belgium League. I've been talking about this kid for so long. He's 23 years old. He himself has a massive, massive ceiling. And I would be absolutely over the moon if Paratici's meeting with the Bruges representatives was more about SKOV OLSEN than it was about NUSA. The problem, I guess, is that I think Tottenham fans generally are looking at our weakness in our squad and saying we need a striker or we need a left winger for the forward options. We know we need a centre back and maybe a midfielder if we lose Pierre Mohoybier. We know those things are out of the way, but this is just a conversation about the forward line. SKOV OLSEN does predominantly play on the right-hand side, and so if you were to bring him in there, would he have the same output playing on the left? Would he himself also have the same output playing at a higher level? Now, if you go back in time before he joined Bruges, he first came out of Denmark and went to Bologna, where he didn't really work out, if I'm entirely honest. His stats were not great. He was played more as a right wing back. He was asked to kind of adapt into a more defensive role, and that really wasn't where he flourished or thrived. And so they cut their losses and moved him out to Bruges. And since then, as I say, this guy has come alive. He's been electric. He didn't have a great World Cup. If you did watch Denmark in the World Cup, he wasn't particularly inspiring, or he didn't set my world alight, which was disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing him do some really great things on the highest level. But I think that you could make the same argument for every Danish player. Basically, the entire squad disappointed in that particular tournament. But this season, SKOV OLSEN has gone on again to another level. And if you're looking for someone that can do all of the things that you need to be able to contribute goals, if you want to be scoring by community at Tottenham this season, with the absence of an out-and-out Harry Kane type of player that's going to get you 20, 30 goals, you're going to need players that can chip in. And I think SKOV OLSEN will be able to chip in more so than Dejan Kulusevski. Now, I'm not someone who dislikes Dejan Kulusevski. I know a lot of you in the community, think that he is a one-trick pony, and I agree with you on that. He does like to step in too much to his stronger foot. He doesn't trust his right foot, doesn't trust his weaker foot. Even though I've never seen him really disappoint with his right foot when he's used it. But the predictability is an issue. With SKOV OLSEN, you've got a guy who you never know where he's going to fall into. He's more than happy to take you down the wing. He's more than happy to cut inside. He's more than happy just to drift inside and become part of the melee within the box and leave space for the overlap from people like Pedro Porro, who, as I said before, is a wonderful, adaptable player that can work well. And I think that Pedro Porro and SKOV OLSEN would really forge chemistry. That you need chemistry within teams. You need people that understand each other. If you remember in the second half of the season before last, when Dejan Kulusevski first emerged and broke onto the scene, had that impact that he had, it was in no small part because of the immediate chemistry that was forged between him and Matt Doherty. That same relationship didn't really click last year with Emerson Royal and Dejan Kulusevski, plus, of course, Kulusevski's injuries. And so, you are always looking for players that can kind of harmonize and work, and where you get efficiencies and economies of scale out of the relationship, where the sum is greater than the parts. And I think that SKOV OLSEN is a sort of player that would have the intellect and have the kind of bromance with a Pedro Porro behind him. It's an interesting one for me. Like I say, I'm more than happy if the story is true and it's about Antonio NUSA. Love to bring in a player like him and see what he can do at the highest level. But question marks are asked whether or not he's ready for that level yet. He's doing it for Bruges. He's done it for Norway to a degree, but he's still not playing every single minute for Bruges yet. And if that's the case, then would he be ready to step into the Premier League? Question marks are asked. For me, SKOV OLSEN, the same question marks exist for any player that is young, that's emerging and doing well in a league that is sort of lacking competitive edge, and where you're playing for the best team in that league or one of them. And I'm not sure about whether either of them would absolutely kill it, but I think I have confidence that both of them would. For me, though, SKOV OLSEN, if Paratici is moving towards SKOV OLSEN, that's the reason for the meeting. then I'm all aboard that as well, because I do think that kid has got so much value and he can be placed in a variety of different positions. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.